So I've just seen that truancy is a big problem at the moment. They reckon about 22% of kids are bunking off 10% of their classes. I believe last year, between 21 and 22, 1.6 million kids in the UK bunked off. Now, in the old days, that would have been considered to be a bad thing. The number one reason they're bunking off is mental health. Well, I suppose when you're trying to teach a dog to purr and a cat to bark, it's going to fuck with the mental health anyway, obviously. And when you're coming out with all these different things, telling these kids they can be all the different things that actually really they can't, and you're enabling their mental health problems, what do you expect was going to happen? So there is the good, the bad, and the ugly on this one. The good thing is that at the moment, if their kids are actually bunking off, then they're missing all this indoctrination and this mind poisoning. But the problem goes back further. I remember it was in the 80s, very late 80s, they started bringing about you can't spank your kids and stuff like this, and they brought about Childline, and they started putting that out on TV. If you need someone to call, which was actually endorsed by some of the biggest nonces and perverts at the time. The irony is quite thick there. However, what this started to do is weaken parents' position within the household, and the kids knew that there was no comeback. The way kids speak to their parents nowadays, if you'd have done that back in my day, they'd have been literally, you'd have had a near-death experience. I was scared of my dad. Now, whether you like that or not is another thing, but he hadn't got to be my friend. He had to be my dad. He had to be an authoritarian. He had to teach me right from wrong, whatever way it took. Now, as you can probably imagine, I was a little headstrong. And I bunked off a lot. And the very reasons that I bunked off are the reasons now I do YouTube, rather than being indoctrinated and plugged into the system like the rest of the fucking sheep. But all the time these kids at the moment are missing this, you could look at which reasons are they missing it for. Are they missing it because they can actually see through all this crap and don't want any part of it? Have they had bad parenting themselves from parents who couldn't discipline them, or neither wanted to or didn't care? Are the kids of today actually the kids of the kids that were bad back then? Who knows? But I don't actually think at the moment, if I had a chance to bunk off school, say for instance I went to school now, I'd be bunking off all the time. I would not have that level of indoctrination. Now, some of you may think that kids nowadays have no idea that they're being indoctrinated. Believe you me, they do. My daughter, she said at school, it was ridiculous, Dad. She says you had to know the right way, the wrong way, etc. to pass. I said, well, give me an example. She said, well, we had to say who was the best news aggregate out there and the safest one to trust. And we had 4 options. And one of the options was the BBC. And she said, we all knew they were full of shit, but if we didn't put that down, we actually got marked down as wrong. She said, so you had to know who really was good and not who was the one they wanted you to put down. And you had to literally have all these different ways of thinking. Now, my daughter is fairly switched on. I would imagine there's a lot of kids out there that aren't. And my daughter being switched on actually is no great point towards me. She decided to go her own way and do her own research. And as a result, she doesn't believe in all the bullshit out there. However, you've got kids at the moment that they're teaching about perversion, sex. They're teaching them about, you know, and we were taught that protection back in the old days was a condom. And you had to think, is this a good idea? Is it not a good idea? You know, is this person clean? You know, all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, their idea is shove it in the back passage. That's the safe way. Well, we all know that that's not. We all know that that was a great way to pass AIDS back in the 80s. When the AIDS epidemic came out, they did blame it on lots of different things, but it was really, really prevalent in the gay community. And it did seem that that was quite a way of passing it. There you go. So, is it going to get worse? Probably. What they're going to do about it? Well, they'll blame it on all sorts of stuff. But all the time you're indoctrinating our kids and you're teaching them some of the most poisonous values, and you're telling them stuff that their eyes are seeing is wrong and their ears are hearing is wrong, and they have to trust you because you are the way. Kids aren't entirely stupid nowadays, but they're also weak. We've made an entire generation of pussies where you enable them, you don't let them fall over, and, you know, everybody gets a prize kind of thing, and they're there, little Johnny, I know your feelings can't be hurt. They can't fend for themselves. Mine was a generation that got turfed out the house at 8 o'clock in the morning that came home just before it got dark. We had to find water from, somebody said, a hose pipe back in the day, or whatever it was. You'd know whose mother was in. at what time, so see if you could get a sandwich. I mean, the amount of people that used to rock up around my house knowing that Tuesday night was chili con carne. And mine was pretty much an open house back then. But we were all out all day long. Some of the mileage we used to cover as kids, even on BMXs, we do up to 40 miles a day, riding around here, there and everywhere, building dens. And we had to be safe on the road. Now, you might think this is funny, but my mother threatened me. She said, if you get out there and cause an accident and I've got to come out of this house and come and get you, woe betide you. And it was that kind of thinking that made you not want to get in shit with a mother. So you would take more care. I mean, there was always the dense kid out there that would walk out from behind a car without looking, but that's Darwinism. But nowadays, more kids are stupid in self-preservation. They might be far more aware of technology and stuff and how to work a computer and things like that, but ask them to go out in the wild and build a fire. No chance. Ask them to build a den. Why bother? I'm not interested. I want to go on my computer. It's a very different world. We were the last. Gen X was the last of the tough kids. After that, they all got softened up on board. No, I'll go here. I've just eaten something. That'll be a herb. Yes, computers and stuff like that. But it is shit. But if kids are bunking off and missing out on this indoctrination at the moment, I'm not overly upset about it. But what are they doing when they're bunking off is the worry. Are they getting into gangs? Are they going out doing drugs? Are they going to be the victim of a teenage pregnancy and all the rest of it? Who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, I'm going to get on my day's work, and I'll speak to you soon.